What is up, my ancient aliens of a future unknowable archive of human information? Thank you once again for joining me. I'm piping some tunes in because I'm really going to feel this one, ladies and gentlemen. If your alien species does conform in any way to our human notion of sexual dimorphism, which, in all likelihood, perhaps it does not. I found something funny on the internet. I found this. They're in chat. I found a relationships.txt Twitter post that led me to this. What is this? Like an archived Reddit? Rare edits, rare Reddit posts. But this one says it's from just earlier this month, so weird for it to be archived. But anyway, I was just doom strolling down Sean, leftist video producers, Twitter, came across this, really wanted to get my teeth into it because there's some good stuff here. Not just in the post itself, which is kind of funny, but really in the reactions, because it's such a typical dilemma described in the problem. It's such an obvious manifestation of all the things that we talk about here. Late capitalist alienation, first and foremost, and all the solutions are equally obvious as to the stance of the advice giver. And invariably, they are some variation on man the fuck up and work or go to therapy. The duality of man. So let's start with the post itself. I feel very insecure about the insane disparity in income between me, 28 male, and my girlfriend, 28 female. So first of all, like, if there's an insane disparity of income between the two of you at 28, it's like, congratulations. Somehow somebody who has like no income and somebody working a minimum wage job, despite the fact that perhaps in terms of raw ratios, percentages, fractions, whatnot, they're making, infinitely more money than you. That's not what people mean when they talk about disparity in income, insane disparity, which means one of them is making a lot of money. So money is fake. And I've been thinking a lot about this phrase too. Money is fake. Money is fake insofar as most major modern religions are fake. Which is to say that, like, the core underlying principles of why they should matter are socially constructed. But to get out here and start saying stuff like, and therefore they don't actually matter, no one's actually doing that. Which I find money is fake is another one of those leftist slogans that has a lot of meaning loaded into it if you are willing to dismantle it, to unpack it. It's in the sense of a gun, in the sense of a firearm, right? A slogan can either shoot you with the message, or it can present you with, an intricate piece of craftwork and machinery that if you take the screws to it and dismantle it, whoa, this thing's full of bullets. I think money is fake is a gun that shoots nothing. It's being handed a full revolver. No, a full magazine fed handgun and a screwdriver. If you're willing to do the work, money is fake has a lot inside it that's worth unpacking. But presented to a hostile audience, money is fake simply gestures towards the idea that money represents real things. And those real things are still real. You know, you're just turning a magnifying glass to like the space of abstraction in between what sign and signifier, which is to say that to a hostile audience, the phrase money is fake is both so dumb to the point of being shallow, but also so easily waved off to the point of not even being productive. You have to want money to be fake for the phrase money is fake to be a tree that bears any fruit. So it's like a gun tree full of fruit. But anyway, this person engaging in the fake practice of hoarding wealth has some problems. They noticed some problems with money, and that somehow even access to a lot of it hasn't made them happy. What a mystery. Let's see if we can find out any clues as to why that might be by reading more about this guy's dilemma. Hi, Reddit. So this guy's, I'm just going to call him Phil. His username is Phil0UUU. Like just lowercase u, lowercase u, lowercase u. I'm not going to call him Philo every time. I'm just going to call him Phil. I might jokingly call him Philo. Nobody calls anybody Philo. It's clearly supposed to be Philip. There's a Philo. I'm just going to call him Phil. And he does get a doctorate later. So I'm going to have to resist the urge to call him Dr. Phil. Hi, Reddit. My girlfriend and I met at a prestigious university, so we were already rich. I was studying philosophy, so I was already rich at the time, while she was studying computer science, so we were already rich. The study of philosophy is, important and good for the soul, but as I've said elsewhere, like universities are not places designed for anything good to happen. You're designed so that the wealthy can go there and get accreditation that legally distinguishes them from the poor who couldn't afford to either pay the tuition to get in the door or spend however many years of their life they could have been working just kind of reading books in order to get that accreditation. So to take a philosophy degree, to take a liberal arts degree at a prestigious university is either, an admission of I have no fucking idea what to do with my life, except I kind of feel entitled to be at least middle class. Or it's part of the whole long con. It is in and of itself flaunting wealth that you don't even have access to yet because it's all locked up in, legalese and red tape behind stuff like inheritances of people who haven't technically died yet. But it's your money. It will be your wealth in the long run, inevitably. So might as well stick around here and just get a philosophy degree. We got along really well. Him and his girlfriend. That's so nice. And in different fields, so there's not like that weird competitiveness where like, she's getting a better mark than you and you're like, oh, and she's like, that's okay because I still like you as a person. And you're like, I don't believe you. This guy didn't have to deal with any of that in his relationship. Let's see if anything like that does emerge, though. I completed my master's and doctorate after college, while she went to work for a startup. Uh-oh. Computer science, tech startup. Uh-oh. I devoted myself to studies and graduation and made no money, since I believe it is wrong to profit from it. So he ends the sentence in a proposition. Right? Like you're not supposed to end it, right? Ending a sentence with it. Oh, it's this. Oh, Not only is it acceptable to end a sentence with it, doing so can also be the right thing to do. Da 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 da. So this is like old shit. The whole like don't end a sentence with it or a proposition. But the reason why that was ever a rule is because the sentence, I devoted myself to studies after graduation and made no money since I believe it is wrong to profit from it. From working, from studying after graduation, from your master's and your doctorate degrees themselves. Like, what is it here? Because it seems to be really important to this guy's worldview, whether it's labor, whether it's higher education, whether it's the specific tasks he devoted himself to and the forms that it took. By just kind of it in that, we actually lose a lot of important information, even if it didn't even need to go into more detail. It just needed to point back to the sentence. Since I believe it is wrong to profit, and it's also, is this prescriptive? Like, you don't think anyone should be profiting from whatever it is? Do you not think that, like, are you ascribing some sort of inherent value to higher education that then shouldn't be commodified? Are you making a material critique here? Are you gesturing, taking like the first baby steps in that direction? I'm not sure. Reading it that way to me would be generous. I want that to be what this guy's thinking, frankly. But and of course, these are all ridiculous, stuffy rules. But I mean, they're the sorts of things that dumb people like me, imagine you get a doctorate for, and not the stuff I've already pointed to, right? Like the fucking certification, the ability for somebody to say, aha, good, I am allowed to discriminate in your favor because you had the resources available, you had the free time, and cherry on top, right? You might have even had the actual skill and talent to get all the way through these various levels of investment and time, of money and time investments. So that means I am able to hire you instead of, let me just pull a random example of a black person because they didn't have the same opportunities as you. Phew. My upper middle class family, and my girlfriend backed me up. I live in a cabin. And when I say that, I say I live in a cabin instead of I'm freeloading in my parents' cottage, because I too am a child of the upper middle class. And you need to come to terms with these things in your life. Learn how they made you weaker, and not just you. Learn how the entire system that allowed those traditions to exist makes everyone weaker. And I don't mean weaker in the sense of like, oh, we fucking used to punch saber-toothed tigers right in the schnoz. But I do mean weaker in the sense that people used to, and I've gotten a bit further in The Dawn of Everything by David and David, and I am just, it feels good. It feels good just listening to anarchists describe how the world worked before the world became about working. Awesome stuff, man. I don't mean weaker in the sense that we used to have men in the village who could kill a saber-toothed tiger with a single uppercut. I mean stronger in the sense that we used to, in certain areas, the world's a big place, there was lots of people, but we used to move in small tribes, small groups of people to forage, and then we would come together under a greater clan sort of situation to hunt the mammoth. Like, you didn't constantly move in a mammoth hunting party. You weren't constantly hunting mammoth. one of the things that David and even point out in the book is like mammoth is big in terms of yield. When you kill a mammoth, you get enough meat to feed hundreds of people for months. Like, and you're not, your your survival strategies that involve hunting the mammoth do not involve wasting most of the mammoth. So all of a sudden, a bunch of these smaller nomadic groups kind of come together and congregate, recognize our mutual humanity. We hunt the mammoth, divvy everything up, and then go our separate ways, and then come back together again. I mean, weaker in that sense. I mean, weaker in the sense that there are allowed to be children of the upper middle class, who are in the situation that we'll get to this guy describing, makes our society weaker, makes our communities weak to the point of being non-existent. It makes us incapable of, let alone, hunting the mammoth together. It makes us incapable of even doing the minor foraging for the dry season or what have you. Because we have become less capable by virtue of the things that have kept us comfortable. That's the trade-off. Capable, comfortable. This guy was comfortable. I was comfortable, which I can see so much of him already only being 2 paragraphs into his sob story. My upper middle class family and my girlfriend backed me up. So this guy went all the way through to a doctorate degree with like mommy and daddy paying the bills, not making money because of some sort of virtuous philosophical objection, either to profit itself or profiting from the fruits of his specific labor in his specific field. Somehow that was not the right thing to do. And his family said, great. His family and loved ones, including his girlfriend, said, great. Because they're not married, this establishes. I think that's important. We'll come back to that later. Things have changed dramatically recently because of something. My family is not as wealthy as it once was. What could have happened? What could have happened to the upper middle class in the time it takes a guy to go through bachelor's degree, master's degree, doctorate? What could have happened? Could the entire global economy have collapsed like twice? Could a system-shattering pandemic have swept across the entire fucking globe? What possibly could have happened? Anyway, due to the failure of our entire system, which thrives on crisis, which fosters crisis, his upper middle class family can no longer support an entire extra person. On the other hand, she, again, like whatever this guy, I don't know how this guy says he wrote books. But again, it's a Reddit post. Like I probably wouldn't put as much effort into, opposite. I would put more effort into writing a Reddit post than like a book. Because to me, like those sorts of creative pursuits are, they're like this. They're one step up from this, where this is like true word vomit. Almost actually spewed. Creative pursuits are about dumping yourself onto the page, right? And being like unabashedly honest, offensively honest if need be. And then Reddit posts are, an art, like a book doesn't actually need anybody to read it, in my mind. Like just the fact that it can exist outside of you is enough. The fact that those thoughts now have a form that is not simply as a thought in your head, that makes it stronger. The potential idea that somebody could eventually discover it, even not necessarily even a person as I would recognize them, that's enough for that idea to exist outside of me. but a Reddit post is specifically for people to engage with. So I'd probably take more care with that because of the specific forms of social anxiety that I have. I would like to think that anyway. I mean, this can all be looked at and torn apart, but nobody does. Yes, yes. On the other hand, she excelled at her job, and her stock bonuses were now worth millions of dollars. With stocks and options, she earns about $1 million a year. In comparison, I make next to nothing, and my family can no longer support me. As a result, I became almost completely financially reliant on her. During those years in academia, I tried to be as physically attractive as possible while supporting her as a partner. I also help her parents with daily stuff. I'm not making any money right now. Even if I go to work, I won't be able to make nearly as much money because despite graduating from a prestigious institution, I studied philosophy and have no prior experience. I believe she loves me, but I also felt insecure and vulnerable in front of her. It was a mixed sensation. For one thing, I don't think I'm as attractive as I was in college because I'm financially insecure and not well adjusted to society. For another, I was depressed about my future without her because I would lose everything I cared about and be forced to live a completely different life. What should I do at this point? Edit. I am working. I wrote, I am working. I am working. I am working. I wrote many essays and a few books in my field. However, my labor is not getting paid because I want them to be as accessible as possible. She, girlfriend, dislikes the idea of me working for the sake of money because one, I am happier when I am an independent scholar. Two, I use my time to help her, our home, and her parents. Three, in a monetary sense, my income makes no difference to our lives. TLDR, recently I've become fully financially dependent on my GF. She makes tons of money while I make nothing. And then you see later, it's kind of hard for me to track in this format. It seems to be basically Reddit, but just there's some of the organizing is a little bit different. But anyway, it comes to light that he's looking at a job that would pay between 70 and 90K. Now, what's that magic number? What's that magic number we've been talking about? The amount of money that studies done in 2010 show is the maximum amount of money that a person can have that causes their happiness to increase. There's an amount of money, and research shows that beyond that amount of money does not make you any happier. It does not improve your emotional state any further. Almost as if the hoarding of material wealth and happiness don't have anything to do with each other. Whereas having a stable material condition and happiness has a lot to do. What number was that? It was 1,000. It was 1,000K salary. So this guy is independently looking at making a pretty decent life. Like, yes, he's just starting. It's kind of messed up, but this is messed up for everybody who isn't literally like an ultra billionaire with a fucking tech startup. That it's a little bit lower than it probably should be. The fact that he did bachelor's, master's, doctorate, has published, books independently, or what have you. He doesn't get into the details too much, but, has written essays, published works, and written books, and distributed them largely, if not for free, then at prices that made them accessible to the people who needed them. Like, sure, you haven't been flipping burgers, you don't have any prior experience, but slap that on your resume. And slap that on your resume, show it to bosses, and when they say that doesn't count as experience, take it to insanity court and show the judge there that the entire world is fucking insane because you can go through all like 3 possible tiers of secondary education and do a bunch of your own independent work, and it doesn't somehow count for anything. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Because anybody who knew this guy, anybody who knows him, knew him, he's not dead yet, anybody who does know him would understand the value of that work. And despite the fact that it wasn't, bought and traded for, despite the fact that it by design wasn't profitable, it's not like he's talking about, he gambled on a really risky opportunity and lost. He's just talking about distributing stuff at cost or even below cost for the sake of making it accessible, for the sake of making it useful to the people who needed it. Like, that's experience in the world, man. In any world. I can't think of, I like to kind of sit around and imagine other worlds. It's hard not to do when you're listening to a book like The Dawn of Everything. You just start seeing the moment. This is one that makes me happy. The moment 2 fractions, not factions, divisions, fractions, 2 parts of like the greater mammoth hunting tribe that have been separate for the foraging season coming back together, and they're tracking the mammoth, and they spot and like the mammoth is here, and they spot each other's parties like on the other side of the mammoth, and they're like, yo, I'm here, you're there. And they're like, yo, you're there, the mammoth's there. And they're like, we know. A world where that's just what you do. You just kind of like go around getting what you need. You just go around getting what you need. And if someone else has it, you ask for it. And then share it with you. Even in a capitalist world, right? The process of going all the way through university and then doing a bunch of like independent research and work and development and publishing your own books, even in as recently as like the 1990s, I can't imagine that person not being valued by their community. Because that seems fucking cool as fuck. Just like, yeah, my parents who were rich, they put me all the way through the institutions I needed to go through to be able to do this work. And now I'm doing the work. And I'm directly giving back to society. I am creating knowledge. I am diluting information down into a format that I think is accessible, and I'm not making money off of it. I'm doing it for the sake of doing it. I'm doing it so that people can get that information that I had to pay, that my family had to pay, hundreds of thousands of dollars for me to get. And now I'm turning around and doing my best to give it out for free. Dude is one of those guys that when you meet, you want to hate. And as the relationship continues, as the familiarity grows, you realize the only thing that I could possibly hate this guy for is how fucking impolite he is to have such impenetrable armor. There isn't a single flaw in his generally pleasant facade. The only thing to hate about him is how unhateable he is. You know, one of those guys who I had this conversation with my sister ages ago, kind of like midway through the pandemic, about knitting or sewing masks, because that was a volunteer thing that I thought maybe I'd do a bit and never did. You know, sitting doing masks, and that her friend had a friend whose boyfriend was doing it, and how like everyone thought it was really hot that he was doing that. And then in that sad, pathetic way that things do always eventually come around to, oh, Michael, you should try that. Then you'd be hot. Like, that's not how hotness works. That's not how it works. Baby, this is an iPhone SE. Uh-oh. This is a standard piece of printer paper. Uh-oh. These. This. There are things we could talk about toxic masculinity a lot, because we're going to have to get into it to talk about this guy's post. But like, here's something that remains true about toxic masculinity, even once you try to take it out of the picture, right? Like, it's true in both the toxic masculinity of the past and whatever form masculinity survives into, which is that you gotta be hot. Duh. Like, exactly why becoming a hardcore, militant, very like, you know, masculine, assertive, proactive, very like eager feminist wasn't a good sexual strategy for a lot of men, and that they were immediately detected by the community at large as being creepy, as they had been before, right? Just like adopting the right causes, saying and even believing the right things doesn't really matter, because they're tainted by who you are. They're tainted by the fact that if you have resorted to saying or believing those things out of any degree of desperation, then people will know. It will come across. If you have resorted to saying those things as any degree of capitulation or adaptation to like the new playing field, you know? If you believe anything that you believe strategically, it kind of precludes believing it sincerely. And anybody who's looking for somebody who's like truly of the same mind will detect the subtle differences in the way you lag behind, in the way that you don't have your own perspectives that are worthwhile. You just have other people's opinions parroted louder and more intensely than they were originally phrased. I'm saying all these things because these are all things that are true of me, not necessarily in the field of feminism, definitely so in the field of socialism. 100%. I am not a real, sincere socialist. As I've said before, I lack the fundamental love for my fellow humans and empathy that one requires to just instinctually be a socialist. I'd say that it's one of perhaps the only things that I enjoy committing effort to. to which committing effort is not tantamount to suffering, as most things are. Even things I enjoy, playing music, suffering, playing video games, suffering, watching television. It's hard to feel anything when you're watching television. But anyway, I know this from firsthand. Because I have that perfect combination to make me the ultimate YouTube talkie man of self-awareness and self-loathing. That, like, I've really cut through. Not to say that I don't have my delusions, but there is something screaming at me in my own head so loudly about my own delusions that one of the techniques it has learned to use to educate me about my delusions is to carve apart the delusions of others in hopes that I'll see something, inside the carcass that reminds me of something I've seen in myself, in my own self-reflection. And that has come true a few times, I'd say. A few times I've noticed somebody's complete weakness and been able to say, if they're weak for that, then shouldn't you be weak for this? Sometimes it's even, that's the same as you. If that makes them weak, then that's why you're weak. Those revelations, they're not frequent, but they continue to crop up. But anyway, this guy was gonna make 70K to 90K a year. Somehow got into all that. Oh, I was gonna talk about the being hot thing. Cool guys who are hot. So I said, and whatever, I don't care. Let's just see this. I said, like, there are things that are sexy and there's things that are gay. In the way that we used to use it as a rude word. Which is not just like lame. It's undesirable in a very specific way that has very little to do with lameness and has a lot to do with gender roles. So I agree that it shouldn't be used super casually as like a fun throwaway insult for or like pre-tweens to use. But I basically divided stuff up into a spectrum. Not even a spectrum, but like that if or sort of 4-quadrant box. So it was like, if you're hot and you do something sensitive, do something considerate, like hold a door or knit a mast, which is like, I'm not out here saying that knitting or sewing rather is inferior. I do it too. I fixed. I think what happened to those pants? I had some pants that I needed to finish fixing a hole in. So that's the other thing too. I just don't finish work. I just start it and then like realize how tiring it is and then just give up. Where are those? Also, I got fat, so none of my pants fit me anymore. So it kind of seemed like a fool's errand anyway. I'm not saying that stuff's bad. I do it myself. But like, it's women's work. It just is. Sorry. Like, in the sense, like acknowledging, using that phrase, women's work, with the sense that it is an outdated, unhelpful, discriminatory, bigoted sentiment. That doesn't make it not true, right? That isn't. I'm pointing here to the fact that that is how people see it, right? Not that that is the way that it should be. And yes, pointing to it, using it in that way reinforces it, but I'm also reinforcing it to an audience of literally 0 people, so I don't feel that bad about it. Doing women's work when you're super hot is super sexy because it's like, whoa, get you a man who can do both, right? Doing women's work when you look like this is just gay. It's just it's just pathetic. It's just it is a capitulation to the arenas in which success was ever possible for you. And if you want to just boil that all down to the word lame, then like so be it. I disagree. I think that's a bit more nuanced, actually. Uh, but when you look like this and you decide, like, oh, I'll try, volunteer sewing, you're saying to people, I'm here because I couldn't be elsewhere. I'm here because my options for being helpful have essentially been exhausted. This is the last ditch effort for me. I went on a date this one time with a woman who'd done one of the rare dates. Ooh, that Wolfie's been on out of like all 4 of them or something. Oh my god. Shit. One of the 4 dates I've been on was with this woman who had done some, the whole teaching English overseas in Japan thing. And I was like, oh, hey, that's interesting. I've always kind of thought about that. Never done it. Never even really looked at the paperwork, what it involves. Took a few polite, gentle, not even really warnings, but just sort of, the accounts of the experiences of people who've been there doing that. Spooked me off it entirely. Oh, scary. For good reasons, one of which was, what was this guy's name? I forget his name, but he does humorous short Japanese tutorials. I don't follow him any longer. I don't think I ever followed him. I just kind of got into the algorithm, and the algorithm wanted to say more. And I was like, sure, I guess so. And it's polite to subscribe, so maybe I was subscribed. It doesn't mean anything. It's not like it affects what videos you actually see. What was the guy's name? Anyway, basically explained that like a lot of people who come to teach English in Japan don't like it. They end up having a really bad time and they're really frustrated. Why is this? Well, it's pretty simple. Because they don't have any interest in teaching English. They have the part they have interest in is the in Japan bit. So they come over to Japan because they want to come to Japan, but they have to teach English. And if you're not passionate or interested in teaching English grammar, then you're going to spend most of your days working, first of all, honk. But since you're going to spend most of your days working, you're going to spend them working on something that doesn't interest you at all. And you're not going to have fun. So if you really want to, live or work in Japan, maybe try to find a job that you are interested in and then start working that job in Japan. Don't just kind of go with this very common cultural trope that people are just aware of teaching English in Japan and thinking the emphasis is going to be on the in Japan part, because the emphasis is going to be on the teaching English part. And you're going to have to do that. And if you don't like doing that, you're going to have a bad time. So that's true. I probably like teaching English. I like teaching English in the way that I saw the guy with the glasses on Stargate one time was in he was teaching like an English second language course, because it was during like one of those seasons where like the Stargate program got like broken up or something. Maybe it was like an alternate dream world or something. I have no fucking idea. Really, really getting hostile there really getting hostile there at the apparent image I was predicting as somebody who knows about Stargate SG-1, which is like, in this case, literally true. Like, I don't know that much about Stargate SG-1, but I know that it's called Stargate SG-1, which is more than enough for most people. More than enough to be like, okay. Like, it's true that I don't know that much about Stargate. That doesn't mean it's not true that I'm a nerd. a huge nerd in the way that it was never morning for me. People talked about how it was like the fucking rise of the nerds and shit for the Marvel movies coming out. Not the case. It was never really into comic books, but like maybe my friends who were into comic books did feel that. I know it. I have at least one acquaintance I'm aware of who has like ground parties to a halt in a good way to just have people kind of listen to him like he's Socrates about like the future of Marvel movies and like what they should do with the characters based off of stuff that has happened in the comics, and be like, the thing we've never seen Peter Parker be is as in the role of a teacher or something. Actually, I think it was true at the time. And people just like listening intently, like, wow, that's so insightful. Whoa, yes. Truly, superheroes are the modern mythology. Mm-hmm. So maybe it was morning for those guys. They got their moment in the sun. I never did. Being a weakling, being a repugnant sort of dork, sort of pedant, never got hot. It just kind of changed the sorts of t-shirts hot guys were allowed to wear, which goes back to what I was saying before. But anyway, I think his name was Daniel. Guy from Stargate. He's in some sort of ESL class. Doesn't really know about teaching English because he's like an architect, not really like a linguist, I think. Maybe it's a bit of both, but he was like a research linguist, not like a teaching you how to talk linguist. I don't know. But anyway, it's just him, and he's like, all right, this is English class. It's me talking in English, and you guys all like, huh? And I'm like, right. Like, I don't need to know whatever wacky language each of you guys speak just to teach you English. I just need to insist on you guys speaking English and being like, hey, what do you guys want to talk about in English? I could do that. That's not teaching English. You have like fucking grammar courses and give tests and stick to the rubric and the syllabus and stuff like that. Nah, thank you. But yeah, going back, like a really hot guy can wear a nerdy t-shirt because it's like, oh man, he's like not afraid to love what he loves. Context matters. A really schlubby, sort of pathetic, dork-ass weakling wears a weird, freaky t-shirt with runes and shit on it, images of God and quotes from the Bible. And people say, what's that? And then you'd be like, it's sort of like a symbol of, and then other people tell you to stop talking. Not this shirt by the same artist. True story. Somebody asked, what does that shirt mean? And I was like, well, this means this, and this means, and then someone jumped in and said, nobody cares. Because when you're already the guy that nobody cares about, taking the actions of people who are cared about doesn't make them care about you. They can just tell that you're doing it to make them care about you. They can tell that you've shown up to the party with like a contract of friendship. And you're like, if I fulfill my end, then you are obliged to acknowledge such on this legal agreement. And then by virtue of the social contract and the mutual activities in which we have partaken, we will technically be friends. And they're like, fuck off, loser. Fuck off whatever disease you have in your mind. Get away from me. Because you're bad for everything. And they're right. And they're right. And that's how I'm imagining this guy. I'm imagining this guy as the guy who can get away with it because he is. Because if you were just some sort of schlubby-ass, stupid-ass motherfucking loser and you wanted your parents to put you all the way through to getting a doctorate and you wanted your girlfriend to kind of like, look after you while you're getting the doctorate too, basically the guy's getting an invitation to be a house husband, but like a nerdy house husband. He like writes his own books. That's so crazy. He went to school for so long, he just stays up in his study and he writes his own books. But then he comes down and he helps with like the dishes and the gardening, and he helps out my parents too. He's just being invited to be a house husband. which could be fine, dude. Like, you're a man, you know? You're a man. You gotta hunt. You gotta provide. But if your hunting is hunting for words and your providing is providing the Helpy Smarty Pants books to the community at an affordable cost, and she's into that, because apparently she's into that, because at every turn, like, he never identifies. She has a problem with that. Do you delete these things out of chat? Remove. I'm getting spam today. Popular stream. Never says, like, she's against it. She wants me to get a job. She's on the other side. She wants him to be happy. She dislikes the idea of me working for the sake of money because, one, I am happier when I am an independent scholar. She wants you to be happy. She wants you to be an independent scholar. She just wants to have you as, like, her pet house husband who wears big, round Harry Potter glasses and every 6 months comes out of the attic with, like, your new book on baby psychology or whatever the fuck you do. Why is that a problem? Everybody in the comments doesn't understand what the problem is. What's so bad about that? What's so bad about that? And I'm like looking around, like, do we all live in the same failing economic system? Do you guys all live on the same planet that I do? Because I know exactly why this guy's upset. I know exactly why this guy's upset. Because every political, economic, social force that this guy has ever been exposed to tells him that this is wrong. And like, the affection and acceptance of his immediate loved ones isn't enough to dissuade him of what he feels his society, and to, you know, the same sort of logical extent, his community, which I'm going to get into, what those things want him to do. Just as my parents are cool with it and my girlfriend's down with it, that doesn't mean society is going to fucking forgive me for accidentally cheating my way through to the good ending. Like, he saw, right? And whether he reckons it as this or no, he saw capitalism come for his upper middle class family. He saw people who just thought it seemed like the right thing to do to put their son through university, through a master's degree, through a doctorate degree, just as that seemed like the right thing to do. He saw those people brought low by the crises that this economic system is designed to create. Capitalism is designed to create shortfalls and booms and recessions and bubbles and fraud and exploitation, and set up systems of growth that can only, expand exponentially for 3 quarters out of the fiscal year and then crash and take everybody except like the 10% at the top who knew it was going to crash the whole time with them. That's what's supposed to work. And he saw that happen to his family. He knows that wealth doesn't last. What if his girlfriend's doesn't? What if their fallback of being a good person and sharing knowledge with those who couldn't otherwise afford it isn't enough to stave off the fucking wolves at the door when the collector comes calling, right? Knock, knock. Taxes due. Knock, knock. Debt, please. Mortgage, right? He also talks about, obviously like trying to keep himself attractive the whole time. Like he knows that he would be some sort of, intelligent academic trophy husband. He knows that he has to do both. And he also knows that love fades, right? Like they were together. When did they say? Studying philosophy at the time. She was studying computer science. I completed my master's and doctorate after college. Well, she went to work for a startup. I devoted myself to my study. Things have changed dramatically recently. It's hard to grasp the time frame for this. It's hard to grasp the time frame for this. Especially because of how he flips the words. He uses prestigious university and then he says college, which are, I'm presuming this is an American writing. Might be wrong, but my understanding was that those were like two very clearly different institutions, especially in American English. Like it's a bit more muddled here in Canada, but still basically generally like a college is a technical school and a university is academia. And like maybe I don't know, right? If he's talking about meeting while they were bachelors and then going on to do what, 3 years master, 3 years doctorate, 6 years, and then since then they've been out. Like if they've been, here's what I'm getting at. If they've been together for longer than 7 years, I'd say maybe don't worry about it. Right? I mean, worry about it because stuff changes all the time. But guys, 7 years is like the big one. 7 years is to pull out some completely false and ridiculous evolutionary psychology. This is my Sherlock Holmes bubbler pipe. 7 years is about the amount of time that you need to be, as a heterosexual person with a partner of the opposite sex, to have done the nasty, knocked her up, get that baby out of her, and then look after that kid for long enough that it's basically kind of like the Village's problem now. Right? Like by the time the kid is like 6, 7, they're running around, they're doing stuff, and they got uncles and aunts and maybe even your grandparents are still around, but like the whole village is doing stuff. You don't need to, and you're busy anyway. You don't need to be looking after that kid. All that kid could help out. Kid can pick berries. Kid can wash corn. Basically, that's time enough for the two of you to have completed your work, your contribution to the genetic diversity of the species, and the ultimate survival strategy for humans as a whole would be to now go off and do it all again with different people. So that, her genes get to continue under a few different circumstances, your genes get to continue. I'm speaking, engaging with the male gaze here. I'm speaking to an audience member who looks an awful lot like me. Aside from the fact that we fuck. 7-year itch. 7-year itch. That's the sort of wives' tale sort of thinking about the 7 years itch. And if this guy's not coming up on that, you know, if they've gotten through that somehow, and they're still together, which happens, you know, monogamy exists. It's not like it's never worked ever. You know, but here's the thing. I'm going to go to Twitter because I'm getting into some of the comments here. So I closed it. That's not what I meant to do at all. It's the opposite of what I meant to do. So I'm going to read some of the comments on this video under Sean's Twitter feed of it. Here's some good ones. Goat on a Tractor says masculinity was a mistake. Thanks for your input, bro. Not gonna get out. It heartens me that this guy, this woman, I presume, Michelle Pineda at Sunset Nuclear says, I think he feels bad because society makes him feel bad, and I have my sympathies, IDK, and they have 1,600 likes. Because that's precisely what's going on right here. As I said, like even Western capitalism up to a very recent cultural moment would being this guy be kind of cool in its own off the beaten path hipster sort of way. And the only thing, like his insecurities, he can't even point to like what the insecurities are really. He just can kind of just restate his case because his insecurities all come out of scarcity and the risk of abandonment, basically, right? But then RB Calzone at B Calzone. There's no E at the end, so I don't know, but there's an accent like this over the O. Calzone? I don't know. Yeah, this is like some subconscious light incel shit. I am not attractive because I am not providing, and I feel insecure about my female partner making money. Like, I get it, and it's got huge historical precedent, but dude needs to get over it. All right, so now we're getting into the real delicious fucking meat of this stuff. Michelle responds back, I'm not seeing the incel part, but yes, I can understand being tough on him. Mainly, I think no matter who you are, no money and lack of family power will really hurt you. And it does go to mention that he did not want to talk about what happened there, so I can only imagine. And then RB clarifies, incels think that women only value good looks, and once settling down, how much money their partner brings in. And then Michelle says, oh, I see. Just, oh, I see. Just, you know, as far as responses on Twitter go, lives right next door to just blowing somebody off entirely. But if RB is to be taken at face value here, incels think that women only value good looks, and once settling down, how much money their partner brings in. Hey, dude, I'm sorry to break it to you, but if that's the case, you've just defined like the mainstream culture as incel culture, which I guess is not wrong, you know? But like, yeah, absolutely. Like the dominant thread in the way people discuss heterosexual sex relations is through the appeal of sexual attractiveness early in life, and then later in life the wealth and security that they can offer through the money they've hoarded. And you can't argue that that's not how a lot of people see a lot of stuff. That is surely a reductive lens, but it is also in the way that a reductive lens, can kind of fallaciously be fallaciously. Yeah, like you did a fallacy. You said something fallacious. It sort of operates like Occam's razor. That out of all the complexities that you can observe, chances are the simplest explanation is true. So we'll look back at, Dr. Phil. I did it. Fuck. His comments. I tried to be as physically attractive as possible while supporting her as a partner. For one thing, I don't think I'm as attractive as I was in college because I'm financially insecure and not well adjusted to society. So, two things here. So, first time he specifically mentions being physically attractive because yes, of course. Yes, obviously. Like, yeah, the connection that people can have can do its part to supersede good looks. And at the same time, good looks can supersede the connection that people do not have. Like, are we seriously going to get out here and pretend that that's not the world that we live in, where people just have, fleeting moments of casual sex based up purely off of physical attraction? Are we going to stand out here in the fucking rain and sleet and snow and thunder and risk our lives to shout that undying truth into the fucking void? No, we're going to stay inside, nice and dry, where we acknowledge that hot people fuck because they're hot, and people want to fuck hot people because they're hot. Like, it's ridiculous to prescribe that idea to what incels believe. Like, yes, that's part of what incels believe. But it's a square rectangle situation, you see, right? That's what incels believe because that's what most people believe. That's a reductive, oversimplified version of what most people believe. And there's a huge chunk of people who are not incels who will also tell you that. Plenty of people have made their ways plenty fine enough while also believing that women only value good looks in youth and wealth in age. Right? Like, you need to be careful, I think, describing your enemies lest you paint them with such a broad brush. To say that incels believe that seems to describe inceldom to a whole lot of people who fuck. A whole lot of people who are willing to simply look at like the base elements of the world and say, okay, sure, there's a bunch of other stuff built up on top of that, but like the base elements of the world are those things. I think a much more useful argument is to say under capitalism, where our minds are warped by the notions of money and markets and transactions, when relationships get processed by a brain that has been hardwired through indoctrination, through their entire life worth of cultural contamination and brainwashing, when that poor little capitalist brain processes a relationship, they process it transactionally. And like you can make just a simple argument, like if money is fake, is the value of gold real? Is money real if it's held to a gold standard? Well, what's gold? Gold's a rare metal that's shiny. What does it do? Like, it conducts the electricity, so there's a bunch of it in our phones and shit. Is that what makes our phones valuable? The fact that there's gold inside them? No, it's the intellectual property, and it's the design, and it's the functionality, and it's the marketing, and it's the cultural cachet of owning this specific kind of phone. What's gold? What gives a good value in the market over anything else? Well, people do. People make those decisions. People make the decision to barter. People make the decisions to engage in markets, or people make the decision to share. People make the decision to be a participant in a commune. Those things aren't inherent to the world. But when your world is programmed from birth to view everything transactionally, shit, those things look an awful lot like the fundamental building blocks of reality. To say incels think relationships are transactional and that the fundamental transaction is either based off of exchanging beauty, is either pleasure for pleasure or pleasure for wealth, right? Pleasure for pleasure or pleasure for comfort, as we referred to it earlier. And if you simplify, if you just solve down with the math of, well, what's physical pleasure? Well, physical pleasure is probably touching somebody else's physical body that is maintained in good shape, right? Good physical shape. That's probably rewarding, because being with a sexual partner who's not a bunch of, weak, frail, soft bones underneath minuscule accumulations of thin, fibery muscles, and just waves and waves of fat all around it. I mean, it's just not great, right? Like, do we need to explain out why, like, the gristle in a steak tastes bad, but the rendered edible fat tastes good? Like, it's the case. Fucking a hot person feels good, because their body feels good because it's hot, because it's sexy. So while you have the opportunity to be hot, right, and you have the market value of the pleasure that your physical body can provide, then you're trading for physical pleasure, and you want somebody who's also hot. And you don't want to trade. You don't want a perfectly fair trade. You want to come out a bit ahead, You want to look a little bit better and then nab somebody who is perhaps physically fitter. You want to trade in physical attractiveness. And barring that, if you're not simply looking for a fleeting pleasure, right? You're looking for a sustainable comfort, which in our society is synonymous with wealth, is, barring the fact that not everybody can actually have a wealthy partner, because there are only so many of those, who possess true wealth that you just can't friggin' shake. You make more money than you can possibly spend a day. Your assistant needs to remind you of, like, The bank is calling. Which bank? The one I own or the one I'm in the process of buying? The one you own, sir. Okay. True wealth, barring that, annual income. The amount of material that that you're going to be able to gather and spend within the foreseeable future. That's why questions, and these are all like traditional, normal questions. Does he own his own place? What kind of car does he drive? How does he dress? Under capitalism, boiling all of those things down to slot them into either the column of physical attractiveness or wealth, it's not even second nature. It's instincts we've learned. So to attribute that to being somehow, as I think what's his name? JB, DR, RB did implicitly. Incels think this. Most people think this. Capitalism thinks this. Incels happen to think it as well. But that's not because they're incels. And thinking that doesn't make them incels. They're just, frankly, just worse at saying the quiet parts quiet and the loud parts loud. They swept them. Because this guy fucks. Phil here has been seeing this woman for a while. I doubt. I'm not even going to entertain the idea that they don't fuck. It's so stupid. But at the same time, he was raised under capitalism, right? He was raised having his brain trained to parse all relationships in terms of transactions. He sees being physically attractive as one of the factors that will affect his wife's decision to stay with him or no. And to say that makes him sound kind of like an incel is to miss the point of like the term incel the way we modernly use it, as it referring to like a specific subgroup of people with a very specific sort of extremely bizarre beliefs, and hurtful and disgusting, revolting beliefs that it's I forget when I did this, but maybe it was in the context of somebody else presenting them, or maybe I just went and looked. But like incel forums are truly disgusting. Truly, it's hard to put words to it because I only have really impressions. I'm not going to bring any up in front of me, but they all seem to fantasize and also look forward to this sort of mythical redistribution of specifically women, like when the laws pass that make it so that women have to marry me, that make it so that women can't dress like sluts and also disagree to fuck me. Like they talked about those sorts of events not only like they were desirable routes for society to take, but as if they were kind of inevitable. And I wasn't able to parse, and I don't want to think too much about it, as to whether that was part of the fantasy of the forums, like that was part of what the in-group allowed them to do, to take such a small and obnoxiously vocal minority and have them just chirp at each other long enough that they convinced themselves that despite they always kept on seeing the same names come around on the forums and whatnot, one presumes, that like such an event could actually occur. Like there were any political gears turning in that direction. The Republicans aren't doing that for you, you realize. The Republicans are making it harder and harder for a free love sort of society where you stand a chance to exist, like making abortions and contraception illegal, turning sex back into something that should be feared rather than something that should be embraced, turning babies. Capitalism turns babies into a problem, as I discussed in another video, and Republicans turn sex into a problem. And so then, not only are the chance that you might have a baby, a baby, I'll have to miss work. And then sex, I might have a baby. They're not making it any easier. They're certainly not going to make any anti-slut laws because Republican laws are for everyone else. Like, they'll still go to strip clubs. They'll still have mistresses. They'll just make sure nobody else has access to any of the things that right now solve our screaming pain and confusion. So simply tried to numb the alienation. But anyway, alienation. Late capitalist alienation. That's what this guy's talking about. He's talking about the sensation of having somebody he loves stand in front of him and say, "You're okay. You are okay with me." With me. By as far as I'm concerned, you are okay. And his response is, yep, sure thing. His expanse is his response is yeah, sure, right, of course. Thanks for saying so. Thanks for saying so is a good one. I always have a thanks for saying so loaded. People are like, "Hey, good work there, buddy," and I'm like, "Thanks for saying so." A good way to both graciously and politely accept somebody's apology. Oh, my brain's scrambled. I don't even know the word for a thank you anymore. Gratitude. A way to graciously accept somebody's expression of gratitude while also wholeheartedly refusing to acknowledge its validity. Grade A stuff. But yeah, no, this guy isn't an incel, and he doesn't have any low-grade incel shit. He has low-grade incel shit in the sense that the incel movement is built on the same capitalist assumptions that most of our horrible society is built on. Like, you can find it's ludicrous to say and which is why this Michelle Pineda person is a better person than I for just seeing him say that and go, "Oh, I see. Yep, no one else thinks, I am not attractive because I am not providing, and I feel insecure about my female partner making money." Aside from incels, which that doesn't really remind me of because female partner is in there, so not incel, but literally not incel, has a female partner in there. What else does that remind me of? Oh! Capitalism. Because the second time Phil brings up feeling attractive, the word physical is dropped. For one thing, I don't think I'm as attractive as I was in college because I'm financially insecure and not well adjusted to society. Dude doesn't even feel like a trophy husband anymore. Dude feels like a novelty, like a exotic pet. He's not well adjusted to society. Because, he spent most of his life in academia, and now he writes, weird books on whatever esoteric subject he specialized in and gives them up for free. And you have a bunch of people in the comments, like, shouting at this guy. Let me see if I can find some. Shouting at this guy. Just fucking be normal. Just fucking be normal, which is exactly what he's talking about. His heart is pulling him in one direction, and then his conditioning is pulling him in another. People who care for him want to see one future for him where he accepts how comfortable stuff can be, but his guilt over the fact that like the world is so fucking horrible stops him from doing it. This is the stupidest thing I've ever read. The sentiment is patently false. I don't know what your work is, and of course I have no idea of the importance that it be accessible. But everyone just like, you need to take that job. You have to take that job. You got to get that job. Somebody pointing out my whole family of 4 lives within that income bracket. Yeah. It's such a confusing stance. But what he's specifically pointing to, here it is. Do you want your significant other to work for sake of making 1/10 of your income instead of helping with your daily stuff and enjoying his or her things at home? She does not. So I think this means he's talking to one of the commenters, and it's hard to tell which one because of the layout of this. It looks to me. Your massive privileges might be to this one? Or might be to this. No, wait. Might be to this one. Did a job. This layout I find particularly difficult to read. I think the conversation goes like this. Level 5 image says, your upbringing and privilege allow you to earn a degree with no financial promise. Is that what a degree is for? Fuck you. You didn't consider that at all, and it shows. Now your family has lost their financial status, and she's the one supporting you instead. And you still cling to weird ethics? On her dime? Please tell me y'all have discussed your refusal to earn money. All my academic friends were right. Never get with a philosophy major. Y'all exhaust me. Get a job. Ethics is one of the reasons. The other part is I can't make much even if I try to monetize my work. She just likes the idea of me working for the purpose of making some tiny money, about $70K to $90K as a new professor, compared to her income of $1 million a year. And then, fuck, I hate reading this, man. And then I think level 5 image says again, your massive privilege is showing LMFAO. 70 to 90K is not baby money. True. Jesus, dude, you live like a rich kid even though you're full-on adult with no real income. Lol. Sad. You know? This is what he's worried about. This is exactly what his concern is. It's not vague incel shit like, maybe all women care about is looks. And I'm old now, and she's going to leave me to date a freshman again. You know? He's clearly not specifically saying that. He is saying And then the one I read earlier, would you want your significant other to give up the things they enjoy doing and helping around the house and being available just so they could make a tenth of your income? Would you want to watch them do that? Because my girlfriend wouldn't. That's why they say, for one thing, I don't think I'm as attractive as I was in college because I'm financially insecure and not well adjusted to society. He's not well adjusted to capitalism. People are shouting at him like, it's as simple as this, buddy. Get a fucking job. Get a fucking job. He's not worried about her leaving. He's worried about his future without her because I would lose everything and be forced to live a completely different life. But he's not talking about like, she's telling me she wants to break up. She's telling me it doesn't work for her. I don't want to compromise. I don't want to change. She's saying, this is not a problem for me. I can support the whole dang operation. And you can just do you and be my pretty house husband. Or then after you get older, my house husband, because people get older. She seems like she's probably smart enough to know that. Or maybe, just the whole horrific sex relations of men and women throughout the centuries up until now will just flip. And, rich women with lots of options will prowl for younger trophy husbands, and old, silly, academic ragamuffins like this will be thrown out for a newer model, and he'll be like, oh, she loved me for my mind, but then when my body went, it wasn't enough for her. He's talking about the social pressures put on him to fulfill these roles, as evidenced by the swelling chorus of exactly this message summoned to respond to him when he asks for advice on this matter in a public forum. How could he not? How could he not? As RB would have us believe, be concerned that women only value how much money their partner brings in, right? When all the people are down here, right? All the people are down here telling them, go to therapy, first of all. Jesus H. Christ. I think I need to scroll a little bit further to find the real ones. You take that job. It is better paying than your current situation of $0. You can save that money and buy yourself a property, thus giving you some security if things don't work out with your GF. Again, that's not really the conversation that's being had here. It's really not, I think she'll leave me if I don't get a job. She's saying, we do have security there. You need to realize that your morals don't and won't pay the bills. You are no longer wealthy via your family, so you must work and not indulge in this thought process of accessibility for free. You literally cannot afford it. You are not rich. Your family is not rich. You need to build your wealth from scratch now by changing and going out to work. You cannot afford to be the eternal student. By charging for his work. I thought it was a typo. I changed it to changing. By charging. I read it breathlessly. There are periods. But I feel like that natural intensity serves it well. How is this guy not supposed to be conflicted about that when these are the voices, that these are the voices in his head being made manifest? This is the messaging we are told our entire lives. You can't afford it. Why not? Why not? Why not? Because when relationships are purely transactional, they are also implicitly predatory. That's the case. Capitalist trades, capitalist exchanges aren't equal and aren't fair. They're made between people with inherent power imbalances. Yeah, in like the fucking, theoretical physics space where every object is a sphere, then yeah, there can be a fair and balanced, fair, unbiased exchange where both parties trade something they value for something they value slightly more. Not real, imaginary, fake bullshit. So, as a capitalist, you're looking for opportunities to decrease your margins. You're looking for cheaper labor to exploit. You're looking for fewer benefits to pay. You're looking for fewer safety checks because those cost money. And if you don't have the checks as often and they aren't as thorough, then you can actually get away with the safety requirements themselves. And then you don't even need to put handles on the doors, just locks. And if we could just do away with all these niceties, then we could take full advantage and maximize profit forever. Exchanges in capitalism are transactions. That's the baseline. That's true. Exchanges are transactions. They're not simply like, here, have this thing. Oh, thank you. Hey, man, I got some bread. We made some bread. You want some of our bread? Sure, man. I'd love some bread. Thank you. With just kind of, the only real exchange there being, I'm giving you bread. And then because it just makes everybody's lives better. And then when that guy has fish, he gives you fish because it makes everybody's lives better. Not because he owes you from last time. Not because, you kept a ledger of how much bread you've shared and therefore how much fish you should get from him once he has fish. Just because you're part of a community looking after each other. So why not be kind to each other? No. Under capitalism, every relationship is a transaction and every transaction is predatory. That's why this relationship shit is so scary. Because there's no commitment, no grounding to it. And even if they were married, there's nothing stopping people from just, splitting. That'd be funny, though, right? Like a tech millionaire woman has to pay for her nerdy but weirdly mousy and kind of cute husband? Flip reverso! But these people, shouting, your morals don't matter as much as money. Ethics don't matter as much as money. Why? Well, because the relationship that he's in, we can't presume to last, through the season, really. Anything could happen at any time. And in the great sea of people that our civilization is made up, they'll drift away from each other and perhaps never interact again. They won't be part of like the same, I don't know, generally largest collection of a few hundred people who get together for like 6 to 4 months of the year to hunt the mammoth together. They won't be a part of each other's lives. That state of play, that familiarity, that warmth, that animal friendship won't have any reason to last because they'll be dashed against the rocks, swept away from each other like so much flotsam and jetsam. That seems bad to me. That seems bad. this is the rejection of the philosophy, right, of the nanny state, of the welfare state, to such a anarcho-capitalist extent, which is to say you can't even rely on your loved ones. You can't take them at their word. They could take the money away. You have to have the money. Imagine living with that fear. Wait, you don't have to imagine. You probably have gone through moments in your life of feeling that way. You might be in one right now. Most of your life could be entirely engulfed by that feeling. And that is the system working as intended, making you miserable, making you afraid of your own morality because it might keep you away from the money. And you need the money. And then people go, I don't really get what this guy's problem is. It's not like he lives in an entire society that, given his situation, would scream at him endlessly to get his own money. I don't really see what the big deal is. Why can't dude just chill out? Why is this dude gotta be such a toxic masculinity? Oh, don't like being supported by a woman much, do ya, huh? What's your problem going against the general flow of most of our society's history up until fairly recently, and also huge chunks of it currently today? Ooh, what's that? Feel a little insecure battling uncharted waters, swimming upstream like a salmon? Feeling a little fragile, aren't you, white man? I don't know if this guy's white. But like, holy shit, just like the fundamental failure of empathy from both sides about, this guy sounds like a fucking incel to me. This guy's nervous to rely on his wife simply because most of society sees that as a failure on his part. I gotta say, that's pretty incel of him to agree with the general flow of society. Not based, my dude. Let's see what else we got. Oh, I see. Shut up. Stuff fucking rocks. Damn, it sure is hard out there for men these days. Shit like this. Let's have a look at this one. 3 people talking in this thread here. Look at that. It looks more like a sort of hoof than a human hand. Sort of like something a weird amphibian creature, perhaps on your planet, alien, might have. Jack Leo at Bacon Radar. I know how to say Bacon Radar. Bacon Radar says, while this is dumb, he is probably correct to be concerned about being totally financially dependent on one person. Again, this is like also like the norm from when I was a kid, Maybe I was lucky and that's a bit warped. But remember single income, I don't remember it. I can't even say it. Remember single income households? Remember your father being the breadwinner? How that used to be like a thing, like a sexist thing, sure. But like it was a thing. It was a thing. And people were expected to be financially dependent on one person. And it wasn't like, fuck, shit, fuck. That's a capitalist trap in and of itself. That like Where do you get off thinking that this economic system that proclaims to bring prosperity at all could ever be stable enough that one person having a job right now means your household will have enough to live off of forever? That's not how jobs work. They come and go. People get laid off for no particular reason. We pressure politicians to fight against mask mandates and stay-at-home orders because we need to keep it chugging, just if that means some workers die and some jobs completely disappear because people are too scared to go to them because they might fucking die. That's not on us. That's not on the glorious system we built. That's just the way of the world, all over the world. Look at China. China did the full lockdowns, and they still get COVID cases every day. They get in all of China like 50 to like 200 on a bad day cases a day. They don't get like, thousands and hundreds dead every day. This idea that like it's his fault or something. That like it's the fault of every individual in the system. Their personal failings are why they're afraid, without being like, everyone's afraid. Maybe it's the system's fault. The system perhaps wants us to be afraid, wants us to hold the idea that being financially dependent on just a single millionaire in the family is a risky move. What the fuck? What the fuck? It's crazy talk. Bacon Radar says that. Bacon Radar means well. Anna at Pencil Forge says, he says he turns down a job. He said he turned down a job that pays $70K. It's just not as much as his girlfriend. So that's him if he became a professor, at which point he would no longer be an academic, at which point he would no longer be working like for accessibility as an independent, which means he would no longer be happy. He would no longer be as happy as he could be, which is how happy his wife wants him to be, which is why she doesn't mind. I mean, at the point when you're like a fucking have a tech startup and your stock options and shit are worth $1 million a year. It's like, first of all, okay, to be fair, in light of what I just said, yeah, she probably has like one of the most potentially tumultuous millions of dollars that a person could have, because those things get bought out, but sometimes they get bought out and that's retirement, those things dissolve. But sometimes you're just sitting fucking pretty on that stuff, unless you risked it all on like getting even more money, which again, why do people do? But yeah, she's turned down a job, pays $70K, not as much as his girlfriend. Specifically, he characterizes it as a fraction of money that, yes, in the like ridiculously wealthy, luxurious context of these people's lives, it's like an embarrassing sum. It's like a pittance. It's like, if you were a university professor and you made $90K, would you want to see your partner also do a fucking like paper route that they didn't want to do? That you didn't want them to do? Just because they needed to be doing something? Like, that's the emotion he's invoking. Like, why isn't one of us has enough? Well, because our society is built in a way that what's yours is mine, what's mine is yours, is never true. It is only true under very specific conditions. And those conditions are at the mercy of people's emotions. And those emotions are at the mercy of the same crises that capitalism causes for everything else. Who knows how long it will be until some sort of reckoning comes for your girlfriend, and what happens to her makes her not want to be your girlfriend anymore, makes her not want to share that money. Well, then, yeah, at that point, I guess get a job, and that's a shame. But I don't know why nobody else is really phrasing it in this way, but he's talking about being concerned about like that self-fulfilling prophecy, about that anxiety, right? That looking at the world in that way, expecting that outcome, creates that outcome. Being the person who's afraid to do what they love simply because of some notion that eventually, for some reason, they might have to live without their current significant other, turns them into the person their significant other needs to leave, because they're not the person they love, because they're not doing what they love. And he's caught in between the poles of, a moral and ethical good of making knowledge available. And people are shouting him down for that. Seeing if they're, here we go. He would make more money at his job than I would if I accepted this job as researcher, natural and applied sciences in Bedford. It's not actually a job I'm being offered. It's just something that's popping up on that old job search. Remember the job search? Remember the oil rig shop? Classic. Canon. Oh, Jack, Bacon Radar, asking Anne, did he say why he turned it down? And he wanted his work to be more accessible. Well, says Jack, says Bacon Radar, he's still probably correct to be concerned about being financially dependent on one person. He just decided that concern is preferable to his work being less acceptable. I think he sounds like a dickhead, but the concern makes sense to me. I don't get how he sounds like a dickhead here. And then Daniel Friedman jumps in. Daniel 2 Friedman jumps in. His concern is that without his GF, he can't live the lifestyle of a millionaire household. Without her, he is just some guy making double the average income in the US. He's being a bitch. Got him. Jack, if you say so, I can only go by the facts as presented. Daniel, someone already replied to you saying that he had a job offer for $70K. Jack, which he turned down. I don't know what your point is. Daniel, that's his alternative without his GF. What's confusing about that? Daniel, that's what is called his earning potential. He can get a similar job if needed. Huh? Before we go any further, I'll address the tweet. Tweet immediately below this. These are all fake. But I know this one is fake because there is no academic philosopher out there who doesn't have a job yet and has written multiple books. Also, the line about accessibility is nonsense. Is that true? I don't know. I don't know if I buy that. I mean, definitely, probably not books that are like, fucking widely sold and shit. But it seems totally feasible that this guy could have gotten out there and just written books. Like we've clarified that like his girlfriend and family were supporting him throughout that. And maybe he doesn't mean like books. Maybe he means like books. So, Daniel, very helpfully, let's look at Daniel real quick. think, what is it? HEI point. I think this guy might be a crypto guy. He's a Texan. Points-based reward system for HEI subscribers will soon be a new form of currency. Yeah. What are HEI points? HEI points is HEI subscribers, HEI network. On cinema, at the cinema, Oscar specials? Oh, wait, is this a... Oh, it's a Tim Heidecker, HEI Heidecker. It's a Heidecker cryptocurrency. So it's a joke. It's funny. But still, dude reduces down his dilemma to one of earning potential. Earning potential. So the moral, ethical, public good of, publishing accessible philosophical works has an earning potential in our society of $0. Fuck you. Talking about shit, helping people talk about shit. Fuck you, $0. You don't get any of my motherfucking money. Potential earning potential of just becoming yet another cog in the industrial machine of modern universities. 75K, 70K, 70 to 90K. Hey man, it looks like there's a really big what's the word for when someone wants you to do it? Incentive. I got this sound. Looks like there's a pretty big incentive for you to become yet another cog in the machine of capitalism. Would you like that? Bear in mind, your ethics and or morals do not matter or apply. I almost said your ethics and physics. Now keep it in mind that your stupid and worthless philosophy degree, no matter how many morals or ethics it has taught you, they are dumb because they do not make the money. And you have to make the money. Despite the fact that, if you look at it plainly, your girlfriend, your partner, who has given her every assurance she can that she is happy with the arrangement as it is, that she wants you to be happy and she wants to support your happiness. Keep in mind that she might be a lying bitch. She might be ready to snatch it all away the moment you really give up on the job search, the moment you really decide this is a life for you. She's gonna fucking take it and walk out for some mega Chad with a 7-inch dick who fucks her good, unlike you. Aren't you scared now, you little bitch boy? How dare you? How dare you rely on someone else? How dare you rely on anyone? You are an island. As the saying goes, you know that famous saying, man is an island. Wait. Wait a second. No, don't question it. Don't think about it. Oh, somebody here with some bit of logic here, and then they fall into the trap. I'm slightly tuckered. I'm out of coffee. But I don't want to get into the whole therapy side of this. I think I've made a great case that everything this guy has tried, everything that everybody else has tried to say about this guy has just been variations on capitalism bad, capitalism good. Most of the time, capitalism is a foregone conclusion, and just kind of puzzling out his exact unworded objection to how miserable late capitalist alienation is. That's all this is. It's late capitalist alienation. That's all. And it's just proof that not even the wealthy are immune to it. The upper middle class does not slip into the upper class, it crumbles into the lower middle class. Because that's how capitalism works. Pyramid scheme. Even people with all of the resources at their disposal to be happy don't have that, because they can't be sure that it won't be taken from them by the next crisis that comes along. So unless they personally own it, they have no rights or ask or guarantee to it, right? To even demand it of somebody who is ridiculous, preposterous, rude, terrible, rude. No one's in here saying, well, if she's not gonna, he needs to get married ASAP. Lol. Oh, there's another add-on around here somewhere. I'm not. I can't go through this whole archive to read. Oh, right here, yeah. He says, someone says that he's been a student forever. Oh, this is a weird bit where he has what are your goals together, marriage, home, children. I'm not a student anymore. I'm a researcher and a writer. I can take a job that pays 70 to 90. She knows I can never get a job that pays as much as her job pays. And she felt there's no point for me to work for money if that's the only reason to go to work. She thinks that. In terms of our future, we talked about it before. Recently, my insecurity stopped me from imagining it. Like, that's what I can say. That's what everybody else has been failing to understand, right? That it's not the threat of this not working is not coming from her being unsatisfied with some schmuck who doesn't earn 70K a year, who does his own work, and I love him and his mind, and he gets to share that with the world. Fuck that. He should be making me that money. It's that his fears created by the fucking peanut gallery in these comment sections, right? Who are just doing the work of reinforcing society as it currently exists. Either like you're some douchebag guy who's scared of women having money, or you're some piece of shit loser who doesn't have enough money. Nah. Either you're one sort of fucking prick or you're another kind of stupid asshole. But what he's saying is, it's my fear that those thoughts are putting in me, my insecurity, that stopped me from imagining our future together. I don't like marriage as an idea. It's cool to be wrong. And I don't think it's ethical to use a kid or a marriage for the sake of improving my financial security. This might be written in the voice of that guy, of Chidi from The Good Place. That might be the joke. Don't like the idea of using a kid or a marriage for the sake of improving my financial security. Yikes. She owns everything. She tried to share ownerships, but I refused. Dude could have his name on a bunch of this shit. That's how it works with my folks. You know? My mom has her name on a bunch of this shit. She didn't fly the fucking planes. That's how it works. And then this person says, therapy might be a good. Can I click on the? What does this want? What does this? How did this do? What the fuck is this? I can click on someone's name and then. Oh, it's just collapsing it. Over here, back in the Sean comments, J at Alpha Oblivion 7. Alpha Oblivion 7 reporting for duty. I mean, emotional insecurity isn't exactly logical or reasonable. Except when it is. Except when it's all late capitalist alienation. He probably needs a therapist. And I don't mean that in an insulting way. Dun 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 dun! Dun 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 dun! Dun 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 dun! Terminator theme song. Okay, I'm going to end it there because the whole therapy part of this is a whole nother can of worms. But yeah, no, poor dude got brainwashed into thinking he shouldn't feel happy. And then when he got a shot at it, started sabotaging it because it falls outside of what society deems normal. And when he turns back around to society and says, what do you guys think? A chorus of voices screaming, that's not normal. Either you're a prick for considering it, or you're a prick for having doubts about it. Proving him entirely right. That the situation before him was entirely unnatural. In the umbrella of our terrible, horrific society designed to make people suffer forever. So, on that note, I shall leave you. I want to come back to this maybe tomorrow once I've had a coffee and deal with the he should just go to therapy side of stuff. All right. Talk to you then. Bye now.